The morning brief landed in the West Wing like a brick through a window, circled in red ink, leaked by someone who still believed in the Constitution, was a line from an anonymous Democratic aide caught on a hot mic. We did put 235 judges on the bench, and they're ruling against Trump time after time after time. In Washington, nothing whispered louder than truth, accidentally spoken aloud. When that line hit the president's desk, it wasn't just a slip. It was a confession that the swamp had traded ballots for black robes and was now running the country from the bench. In the Situation Room, President Donald J. Trump sat at the head of the table, flipping through a stack of federal rulings, each stamped preliminary injunction. Pam Bondi, now U.S. Attorney General, sat to his right, her voice calm and sharp. "That's number 204, she said, tapping the document in his hand. "It blocks the agriculture relief bill. Last week was the fentanyl order, before that Title 42. Mr. President, they're not reviewing your policies, they're dismantling them." Senator Josh Hawley leaned back, arms crossed. "This isn't oversight. It's warfare in robes. They've weaponized the judiciary." Bondi corrected him. "It's a cartel." Tom Fitton, buried in Judicial Watch folders, laid out the numbers. 235 new judges in under 2 years, mostly Biden picks, all unaccountable. They're not just ruling against Trump, they're ruling against the people who voted for him. Caroline Leavitt, the young press secretary, burst in with an iPad. "Mr. President, it's El Paso." Trump looked up. "What about El Paso?" "Blocked again," she said. "A federal judge in the Southern District issued another nationwide injunction. No troops to the border, temporary relief pending litigation." Trump leaned back, staring at the ceiling as if it revealed the puppet strings above. "They're not just ruling," he said. "They're overthrowing the executive branch with clerical language." No one disagreed. The swamp hadn't drained, it had spread. Where once they used subpoenas, now they wielded injunctions to stop a president from doing what he'd been elected to do. "They're overriding 80 million Americans," Bondi said quietly. Trump tossed the latest ruling onto the pile. "We won the White House. They kept the bench. They want the presidency without the election." The air in the room shifted. They'd named it Lawfare. The left couldn't win at the ballot box, so they buried Trump in paperwork, the border in litigation, and the voter under procedural checks. This wasn't democracy. It was sabotage with a gavel. 7 blocks away, the Supreme Court building sat in dim light, a habit of shadows over clarity. Chief Justice John Roberts sat at a mahogany table, flanked by Justices Sonia Sotomayor and Ketanji Brown Jackson, facing a camera for a curated press statement. "Let us be clear," Roberts began, tone sterile. "Impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement with a judicial decision. An appellate process exists for that. For over 2 centuries, the judiciary has remained independent of political retaliation. We must not fracture it." It sounded dignified, but it felt like spin. Roberts wasn't just defending the court. He was shielding himself from a reckoning named Donald J. Trump. In the Oval Office, Trump watched the raw footage on a private monitor secured through back channels. He turned up the volume as Roberts spoke, his lips pursed with gravitas. "He's technically not wrong," Trump muttered, "but technically, we're being dismantled." Pam Bondi stood nearby, silent. Roberts's doctrine was clear. Judges were untouchable, even when blocking national security or executive actions without constitutional basis. "They're immune to elections," Trump said, standing. "Now they want immunity from criticism. Question that, and you're the threat to democracy." On CNN, Roberts would be called measured. On MSNBC, a discourse hero. On the ground, nationwide injunctions hit 211. The robes weren't neutral. They were political, gearing for battle. That evening, the Oval Office glowed under a brass lamp. Above the resolute desk hung the Declaration of Independence, reframed under Trump's orders, 6 inches right of Obama's old mirror spot. Trump stood beneath it, arms crossed, staring at the parchment. Josh Hawley entered with Elon Musk, fresh from a DOJ fight over AI rules. "Nice lighting," Musk said. "Half office, half bunker." Caroline Leavitt followed, notebook in hand. Trump gestured at the document. 249 years later, we're back at the question nobody asks out loud. Who runs this country? Musk smirked. "They don't want votes. They want veto power over the people." Trump laid a palm on the desk, like a general before a strike. When a district judge blocks the commander-in-chief from securing the border, that's not review. It's regime change. Hawley nodded. "They're replacing the Constitution, one injunction at a time." Trump pulled a leather portfolio, revealing Roberts's speech, marked in red. "He says appellate courts are the answer. I say if they're staffed with the same radicals, it's a stall tactic." He tossed it down. "They want a nation ruled by injunctions. We'll give them a declaration." In El Paso, the courthouse buzzed like a law school campus, clerks with folders, attorneys pacing marble steps. Inside courtroom 3B, Judge Alonzo Rivera, a Biden appointee, wrote a new legend on a legal pad. Known for brevity and ideology, he acted fast. At 3:02 p.m., a lawsuit hit his docket. By 3:41, he issued a nationwide injunction. Executive Order 14,082, Rapid Border Deployment Protocol, is suspended pending review due to potential civil liberties violations under Article 1. No elaboration. The point was clear. You won the presidency, we kept the judiciary. By 5 p.m., DHS froze all border deployments. Units in El Paso were recalled, checkpoints abandoned. An ICE official quipped off record, "We're enforcing Judge Rivera's breakfast." The next morning, drones captured organized groups pouring through Sector 17, where fencing stalled mid-build. It wasn't a breach. It was an opening ceremony. Fox aired the footage. X exploded. Musk posted, "One judge overruled 80 million voters. That's tyranny." 5 million views followed. Hashtags surged. #sign Lawfare takeover. #sign bench versus ballot. A DHS official later said, "The lawsuits come from New York and San Francisco law offices, not the border. They search for judges, not facts." A memo on Trump's desk, marked in red, warned of progressive forum shopping. By midday, 11,000 crossings were logged, cartel-assisted, GPS-targeted. Trump watched the drone footage, eyes narrowing. "They govern through emergency filings with a judge's stamp," he said. Bondi's voice cut through. "Mr. President, the summit can't wait." Outside the Supreme Court, the crowd split. Trump signs right, protesters left, Capitol Police in between. Inside, the National Judicial Reform Summit was no forum. It was a showdown. A sitting president would face the Chief Justice live. CNN called it theater. Fox, overdue. America watched. The chamber featured dual lecterns, presidential mahogany with an eagle crest, and a cold judicial podium. The gallery filled with senators, media, and think tank heads. Trump entered from the east, leather folder in hand. Roberts came from the west with Sotomayor and Chuck Schumer there to observe. Bondi sat behind Trump, Hawley beside her, Fitton with binders. Musk leaned against the wall, phone ready. A chime signaled the broadcast. Trump stepped forward, smiling at the camera. "Chief Justice Roberts," he began, tone deliberate, "you got the top judicial post. What did you do with it? In 2020, when Americans begged for review, you stayed silent. When judges blocked executive orders, immigration, border, security, you didn't act. You were complicit." He held up a 2021 tweet. "John Roberts has been a disaster. He betrayed conservatives. I regret limiting it to conservatives. You betrayed accountability." He faced the audience. "They call him a protector. I call him the doorman of decline, opening the gate for activists, but never facing the people." Roberts waited, then spoke softly. "Mr. President, you attack the judiciary's role. In 2020, we declined cases for process, not fear. Courts aren't political rescue missions. Appellate review corrects lower courts, not rallies or summits. Injunctions are reviewed, often reversed. It's flawed, not tyranny." He folded his hands. "We're not elected by design. If that offends, amend the Constitution, not the court." Trump let him finish, then stepped up. "We're not dealing with disagreement. It's judicial occupation. When judges block policy before it starts, shut down the border without seeing it, that's not a bench. It's a throne." He dropped Rivera's injunction on the floor. "This isn't review. It's seizure." He pointed to the crowd. "Stop nationwide injunctions. When 700 unelected judges dictate policy without a vote, we don't have a republic. We have a judicial dictatorship. We'll dismantle it, legally, constitutionally, completely." Roberts replied, "The judiciary tempers passion. It doesn't follow it. Dictatorship comes when courts are silenced, not when they speak." Trump pulled out the Declaration of Independence, unfolding it. "Jefferson warned that liberty's threat comes from those eroding the people's will under virtue's guise. An oligarchy in robes is still an oligarchy." He faced the camera. "Who runs this country? Not the unelected, not the robed elite. This republic belongs to the people." Bondi nodded. Hawley smiled faintly. Musk tweeted, "Trump reclaimed the Constitution." It hit 50,000 retweets. Roberts stayed silent, stepping down slowly. Trump turned to leave, then paused. "The robes no longer rule. The republic does." In Ohio, Texas, and Georgia, people nodded silently in their living rooms, diners, and truck stops. They'd watched a man walk into the marble heart of Washington and call out what they'd felt for years, unelected power choking their votes. Fox News blared the headline across screens, "Trump to Roberts, you don't run this republic." CNN's panel faltered, their rehearsed talking points unraveling live. Van Jones's forced smile didn't land. MSNBC cut to commercial mid-sentence, a producer's panic pulling the plug on a narrative that no longer held. Social media lit up. X became a war zone of hashtags. Robes vs. Republic, John Trump fights back. Elon Musk's post, "The people just took back the gavel," racked up 10 million views by midnight. The next morning, clarity replaced shock. The White House announced a full legal review of federal injunction powers, a move Trump had ordered before dawn. Congress, led by Josh Hawley, introduced the Judicial Accountability Act, a bill to curb nationwide injunctions and mandate transparency from the bench. Pam Bondi's task force began tracking every judicial block, compiling a database that would soon be public. Musk, ever the disruptor, launched Courtlight on X, a live, interactive map pinning every federal judge halting federal law, their rulings exposed in real time. Within hours, it had 3 million users. Judges, once cloaked in anonymity, faced scrutiny, not from clerks or legal scholars, but from the people they'd ruled over in silence. Trump returned to the Oval Office, where the Declaration of Independence hung beside the resolute desk, not as decor, but as a battle standard. He stood before it, hands clasped, staring at Jefferson's words. This wasn't vengeance, it was restoration, a vow to pull power back from the robes and plant it where it belonged, with the electorate. Aides said he barely slept that night, drafting memos, calling allies, sketching a roadmap to rebalance the branches. They thought they'd bury us in paper, he told Hawley over the phone, voice steady. We'll bury them in accountability. In his America, courts would fear the people, not the reverse. The illusion of untouchable robes had cracked, and the sound of that break echoed from El Paso's unfinished fences to the Supreme Court's dim chambers. Robes don't rule, truth does, law does, and now, unmistakably, the people do. Across the nation, citizens logged onto Courtlight, shared screenshots, and debated in town halls. The judiciary wasn't a distant deity anymore, it was answerable. Trump didn't take a victory lap. He went back to work, knowing the fight wasn't over. But for the first time in years, the Republic felt like it was breathing again.